Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something really specific, the Fall 2025 newsletter from the NAACP Portchester Rye Branch, Unit 2171B. Now that might sound, maybe a bit dry, like meeting minutes. But our mission here is to show you how this one hyper-local document connects directly to the grand sweep of the American Civil Rights Movement. We're talking town halls to trailblazers.
Exactly. It's a fantastic way to see how history is actually made on the ground, not just, written about later. This isn't just notes from meetings. It's really an active blueprint for advocacy and action.
And the history here, it goes way back. This brand, Portchester Rye, was chartered in 1941. And that was right after the Joseph Spell case, the case that famously brought a young Thurgood Marshall into this very area.
Right. Thurgood Marshall. That link is incredibly powerful. It sets the stage, doesn't it? The lawyer, who later argued Brown v. Board, was basically involved in laying the groundwork for this local unit, which makes the newsletter's theme, the fierce urgency of now, feel, well, spot on. It's not just a slogan. It reflects their ongoing work, litigation, education, community building, mirroring that original NAACP mission from 1909.
Okay, let's unpack some of that legacy. There's a huge community milestone mentioned right up front, renaming the Rye Metro North Station Plaza. It's now the M. Paul and Orial Redway.
Yeah.
And this is a story where local action had, well, massive statewide consequences.
Yes, the Reds, their story is fundamental. M. Paul and Orial Red, back in the 50s and 60s, they were denied an apartment at Rye Colony, pure housing discrimination. And that case, their fight, became a pivotal moment for New York state law.
Wait, hang on. So this wasn't just about winning their case in Rye. This actually shaped the law for the entire state.
That's exactly it. It set a major precedent. Their case was instrumental, truly instrumental, in pushing for New York's very first fair housing law. It even became known as the Red Bill. Think about that, a local fight directly leading to statewide structural change against housing discrimination. That was groundbreaking stuff back then.
Wow. And the newsletter points out they were influential figures way beyond just that one, albeit huge, legislative win. Orial Red became Westchester's first Black deputy county executive, and she was even Westchester's ambassador to Japan.
And M. Paul Red, he wasn't just advocating, he was shaping the narrative. Longtime NAACP president and the publisher of the Westchester County Press.
Running a Black-owned newspaper, the county's oldest, through that whole era, that must have taken incredible resilience.
Absolutely. You have to imagine that paper wasn't just reporting news, it was vital. An organizing tool, a communication hub. It offered a voice, a counter-narrative, especially when mainstream media might have ignored or, frankly, misrepresented the community's issues.
And it sounds like the city of Rye itself has acknowledged this deeper history now. The newsletter mentions Mayor Josh Stein. He talked about needing to recognize the city's strong history of Native and African people, not just the European settlers we usually hear about.
Right, which loops back nicely to this idea of continuous movement. Congressman George Latimer apparently used a metaphor at the ceremony, life being like a train ride. People get on, people get off, but the train keeps moving. The point being, the Reds' journey, their fight, it continues to push everyone forward. It's a powerful reminder of the ongoing need for this work.
And that work, that movement, isn't just in courtrooms or city plazas, it's cultural too. The branch was active at the 116th NAACP National Convention in Charlotte this past summer, and a big focus was the arts.
Yeah, specifically the NAACP Hollywood Bureau's Be in the Biz Symposium. This really highlights the NAACP's long game in cultural advocacy. I mean, think about it. They were protesting D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation way back in 1915, and that fight for fair representation continued for decades. It was NAACP advocacy that eventually led to CBS canceling Amos and Andy in 1953, which was, deeply problematic.
That's nearly 70 years of pushing back against harmful media portrayals. So what does that Hollywood Bureau look like now? What's its influence today?
Well, it's evolved significantly. They now oversee the NAACP Image Awards, a major industry event. And they're not just critiquing, they're producing. They're behind Beyond the Gates, that new CBS daytime drama that launched in February 2025. So they've moved from demanding representation to actually creating it. And the symposium had serious players, MC Lyte, the hip-hop icon, Yvette Lee Bowser, the showrunner. They're in the room shaping things.
That's real industry power. And the leadership focus was clear, too, with the Women in the NAACP, or WN, Empowerment Branch, featuring people like New York Attorney General Letitia James and former U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch. That's serious clout.
Absolutely. That legal and political power is crucial. But, the newsletter also surfaces one of those vital, often overlooked stories, An unsung hero moment. It mentions Virginia Williams.
Virginia Williams. For a fair memory. The Royal Ice Cream Parlor sit-in, Durham, North Carolina, 1957. Wait a minute. 1957. That's years before the Greensboro sit-in that usually gets all the attention. Why don't we hear more about the Durham one?
Exactly. And that's why capturing this local history is so important. Greensboro became the big national symbol in 1960, right? But activists like Mrs. Williams in Durham were taking huge risks, engaging in civil disobedience years earlier. It just shows. The resistance was building long before the national spotlight turned on.
And the newsletter makes this amazing connection, doesn't it? It says, Mrs. Williams now lives at the J.J. Henderson Housing Center in Durham. And that center is named for the grandfather of the current Portchester Rye branch president.
Yeah. It just ties it all together. A living icon of the movement connected directly back to the local branch leadership's family legacy. It makes that history feel so present, so tangible.
Afterly. Okay, let's shift to the future, to building the next generation. Education seems core to the branch's work. They put a lot of energy into ACT-SO, the Afro-Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics, founded back in '78.
ACT-SO is such a brilliant concept. It basically gives academic and artistic talent the same kind of spotlight and support that usually goes to athletics. It's about building an infrastructure, really, to nurture Black excellence across the board. STEM, humanities, business, art.
And it's working. The newsletter highlights specific local results. Medalists from the nearby Mount Vernon branch, like Brianna S., who won gold in medicine and health. That's impressive. Plus, they have the John and Doris Rivas Scholarship, specifically for Portchester High School grads. Direct local support.
And they're cleverly connecting this educational push to local history, too. There's an upcoming event mentioned, a screening of that Netflix documentary, Sunday Best. It honors Ed Sullivan, who was actually a Portchester native.
Ed Sullivan.
Right.
You forget he was local. And his show on CBS was huge. He gave a massive platform to Black performers when few others would. It really bridges that gap between cultural history and education. But there's something else here, something really deep policy-wise. Branch members are involved with the State Community Commission on Reparations Remedies, specifically the History of New York Subcommittee.
Yes, contributing research to that state commission, that is incredibly significant work. The newsletter indicates branch members are actively digging into historical records, compiling data, basically providing the factual basis to inform the commission's recommendations for remedies.
What kind of research are we talking about? Is it focused on specific local things, like discriminatory housing practices in Westchester, or broader state history?
It sounds like both. They're providing documented evidence, could be anything from old housing covenants that were explicitly discriminatory to data showing disparities in school funding over decades. The goal is to ground the Commission's policy recommendations in solid, verifiable local history. It's that direct link. Use the past to fix systemic issues now.
Okay, which leads us right into the nuts and bolts, the local action detailed in the newsletter. Just looking at the period from May to October, the list of activities is pretty extensive. It really reads like a community report card. Co-hosting Juneteenth at the Bushland Homestead, a historic site itself, and doing hands-on service work.
That project at the African Cemetery in Rye, cleaning headstones, laying stakes, that's powerful. It's literally restorative justice in action, actively caring for and making visible a history that's often been ignored or erased from the landscape.
So they're covering history, health, civic life. They co-sponsored a community health fair with HDSW and New York Presbyterian, even had medical students from Albert Einstein volunteering. That's great community partnership. And of course, representing at the state level, the 89th NAACP New York State Convention, focusing on leadership and advocacy.
It's a whirlwind of activity, isn't it? But then, tucked into this list of achievements, the newsletter includes something really telling. A photograph from a Village of Portchester Town Hall meeting. And the caption notes, a lot of empty seats.
Ah, right. That photo kind of lands like a thud after reading about all the activism, doesn't it? It's the reality check. You can have incredible leaders, historic wins, but if people don't show up for the day-to-day governance...
That picture says it all. It's a direct challenge, visually. Local government zoning, budgets, policing, that's where so much impacts daily life. And low turnout there, that's a huge obstacle. Progress needs participation, consistent participation.
And they don't just leave you with the problem. They immediately offer solutions, calls to action for you, the listener, highlighting upcoming voter engagement events like a webinar with County Executive Ken Jenkins before the November election, and reminding people to use nonpartisan tools like vote4oneabo.org to get informed.
Yeah, practical steps. And their final event highlight kind of brings it full circle, connecting history, litigation, and community education. A film screening and discussion, How to Sue the Klan, featuring Professor Randolph McLaughlin. He's the lawyer who successfully brought charges against the Klan back in the 80s, a landmark case. It ties that civil rights legal history directly to strategies still relevant today.
So when you step back and look at this whole newsletter, it's clear the local NAACP branch isn't just, recounting history. They're actively making it, connecting national policy, Hollywood, youth education, right down to cleaning headstones and getting out the vote.
Absolutely. The synthesis here is clear. This work isn't for spectators, membership participation. It's about purpose. It's about impact. And the sheer volume of activity described just underscores that progress demands constant effort from everyone.
And for a final thought, something to really sit with, let's go back to that reflection in the newsletter about a visit to Fort Monroe. It used to be called Point Comfort.
Point Comfort, the historical weight of that name and that place. It's where the first documented ship carrying enslaved Africans arrived in British North America in 1619. Starting the story there gives this fierce urgency of now, such a deep, sobering context. 4 centuries of history. And the newsletter uses it as a reminder, right? That even with forces trying to distort reality today, AI, media spin, whatever it is, that basic human connection, decency, shared humanity, it persists. It has to. It's the source of hope. The work this branch is doing now is part of that centuries-long story of perseverance.
So the final challenge, the question this deep dive leaves for you is really this. Knowing that the journey toward justice never stops.
Yeah.
How will you contribute?